Okay.
Awesome. All right, so you're still with me?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect. All right, so I think one of the first things I'm going to do is show you some of the documentation we have on our website, just because some of this is a quick reference back. We have a shortcuts or hotkeys, and actually, I think the easiest thing to do is to go down to the bottom, and there's a documents link. If you ever get lost, some documentation. This will run you through a lot of the overview stuff of different things like viewports, outliner, 3D files. Like, we're going to continue to update our tutorials, so be on the lookout. There's going to be new ones. I think this hotkey cheat sheet is really useful. I kind of forget sometimes that using the 3D programs is not always intuitive, but Mixer is very much set up like a first-person video game on a computer, where you use the AWSD keys on the keyboard to look around or to move around, and the mouse to look. So those are, I think, some super useful things when you're just getting started. There's also a lot of information about MIDI, OSC, DMX. There's just a lot of different things that are very quickly accessed here. Cool. So I think
Cool.
just to get you started, and then of course there's a tutorial page. These tutorials are going to get updated soon, so there's going to be much better content to get you started on that side of things. Cool.
Okay.
So I think now we should be able to jump into Mixer itself. So I'm going to create a new project. How much background information do you have? Do you want me to give you super basic stuff, or do you want me to like run through like an overview? So tell me what would be the best use for your time.
Well, yeah, if I could leave this call making like generative content,
Mm-hmm.
that would be the most ideal. I think like I understand, like last time we went through like sending parameters to like the different like translate values,
Mm-hmm.
translate parameters from these different nodes beneath.
Yep.
And you did go over like we were generating like spiral type stuff and like, but yeah, like I think I could use just a run through of that again.
Cool. And so when you say generative stuff, do you mean like particle systems and effects,
Yeah,
or?
like
Mhm.
yeah, particle systems effects. If I could like make a little animation happen with like numerous boxes and whatever,
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
like the stuff you were like animating, creating just last time was awesome. Like so, like if I could be making that kind of stuff, that would be the best place to start, I think. So
Okay. Well, cool. So I think you'll probably want to start out in the FX tab, and
okay,
within that are a couple effects systems. This is something we're also going to upgrade soon with a lot more options. So there's, I would say the FX system is going to be your go-to, but then real quick, materials are also something that can be generative. So if you go into the materials folder and to the material editor, you can also go into things like this procedural materials. So I just want to throw something on this. So if you put shaders and stuff onto objects, you can also animate those shaders so that you can have them glow and also animate based on some of the data inputs. Like if I drag and drop one of these nodes, then it's going to make the effect systems change colors. So this material editor is a super fast way to get some stuff going, especially if you want to do like a like a background plane where you could almost simulate um, almost like a 2D workflow. So I can take this same material that we just created and I got some Z fighting or the planes backwards. Let's see what happens. If I raise this up and
and
rotate
so
it.
this is as simple as just dragging these materials onto the objects itself,
That's right.
basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
this plane is freaking out a little bit. So let's try this one. So back in the material editor, I'm gonna drag and drop it. For some reason, it just doesn't like these planes. That's strange. I've never seen that before. All right.
Oh, and I guess like the one of the like the more elementary question is just like when you started this project, like when I go into Mixer, like I guess like yeah, like can you just step me through the whole process? Like when I open up Mixer, what am I going to see? What am I going to need to create? Like what are there like because I know like Unreal Engine has like are you going to make a movie project or are you going to make a game project? So what should I if I'm wanting to make like visuals,
Hmm.
what what type of scene exact should I like start with?
Yeah, when you first launch Mixer, you'll see a screen basically like this one that'll show your previously created projects. But it'll also show these templates that will can also get you started. So there's a construction site, this physics example, these rotating objects in a spiral. So the if I open up this spiral example, it's got a lot of fog and stuff. So let me turn off some of this extra stuff. Post processing. I'll walk you through some of this other stuff in a minute.
Okay. Yeah, like I remember going in and opening this particular one.
Yep.
So
So this is some of these will kind of get you started and will help you familiarize yourself with, like in this case, the rotation tool, and then these um, animated 3D objects. So this one is kind of intended to show two things. One is these rotation tools and widgets over here. So
okay.
these effect system are basically this rotation tool nested together. So this one still has the widget visible. So this is a good way to kind of see what it's doing. So if I have it rotate on the z-axis at 10 points, then we get it rotating on one axis, and then we can have it rotate on other axes as well. So I use this one a lot actually, because it's just a very, very quick way to get motion. And the way you attach objects is you drag and drop them into the scene, and then you would attach this object to the widget within the outliner. So now this cube is parented to the rotation tool. And if I hit the undo button on location, it'll center it to the rotation widget. So now I can take this widget and hide the little graphical widget indicator, and now we only have the cube that's animating. And you can parent these rotation widgets to each other. So if I attach it to, yeah, there it goes. It's like way off in the distance. Then you can have
I see, yeah.
multiple.
Applying it downstream to all of the objects beneath it, is it? The child objects, right?
Exactly. So this one's like buried under there, but if I move it out enough, you should see that cube. Yeah, you can just, it's teeny tiny now, but this cube is right there. One of the things I like to do, I'm going to drag this to the root to separate them again. And so now we've got this little guy. If you double click on the object, the camera should zoom in, but it's currently locked. So I want to eject the camera. So now we're not in the camera animation mode. We're in the viewport mode. So I can use the mouse to look around. So if I double click on the rotation object or on the cube, then it'll zoom me from one to the other. So that's a really useful thing if you kind of get lost in the 3D environment. It'll help you like go back to, a place you want to either look at an object or navigate within the scene, or go back to like a center point. One of the things I love about the rotation tool is you can have it just rotate on its own. And by the way, we've got a lot of post-processing effects on here, so I'm going to turn off the chromatic aberration just because it's annoying me right now. Cool. So now we've got a cleaner looking image. So the cube with this rotation tool, we can set the rotation to 0 and have the object not be moving. And then with the rotation rate, we can take the audio analysis and attach it to the rotation rate. So now it's going to rotate based on the audio input. So if I go to the nodes tab and I set this up to listen to the microphone, then now it should rotate based on the audio it's hearing from the microphone. Cool. So I think this is something that we'll have to come back to. But that's, I think, a really quick way to get motion within the scene without a lot of work.
Okay.
And let me let's undo that and make another material for you. So if I come back up here to the root level of the content browser and then go to materials, then there's all these different materials to choose from. And some of them are animated, like the gradient one I was showing you before. So if I drag and drop, it should let me drag and drop it onto this cube. The rotation, which it may be messing it up, or the screen shares. I apologize. Whenever I do the screen recordings, it can cause some problems. So let's relaunch Mixer.
Oh, it's okay.
And Mixer, if you get it in a nice place, you should be able to let it run for hours and hours and hours. But if you start doing other things at the same time, like a screen recording, it can definitely mess with it.
Oh yeah. It's all the same, like CPU power, right? Or processing.
Yeah, in this case, I think it's the GPU. All right, so it probably ran out of the fatal memory. Fatal memories are almost always video memory. And if you hit Control, Delete, and bring up the task manager, you can go to performance, and you can check out the GPU and see how much load. Like right now, it's only taking up almost 8 gigs out of 24. So we should be in a really good place right now, but we'll see what happens when we start to really fire this thing up. All right, so if you launch Mixer just with a blank project, the thing that I usually do is hit create new project, and that just gets us into a blank project. And by default, the cloud system is on, and you'll probably have a grid. And so if you can see the grid right now, hit Control G to hide that. So one of the first things I do when I pop into a scene is I'll turn the grid off, and then I'll go over to the Environments tab, and I'll turn the weather system off. And so now we've got just a black environment. I think this is what most concert visual environments are going to look like. The problem with this, though, is now you have to light the scene. So if I drop a sphere into the scene, you can't see anything because there's literally no light in the scene at the moment. So you could start lighting the scene manually. And I've just dropped in this point light to just very quickly throw some light into the scene. But one of the best things to do is actually get one of the skylights or reflection maps and drop this guy in. So if I delete the point light, everything's still black, and that's because it needs a cube map. So I'm going to select ruins just randomly. Let's give it a second. So now we've got this like very simple flat kind of lighting on the scene. And one of the most important things is now we've got something for reflective materials to reflect. So if I take the silver car paint and drag and drop it onto an object, then now you're going to see these like highlights on the top side. And what this is doing is this kind of metallic material is reflecting the cube map. And so if we change this from like ruins to sunset, then it's going to change the lighting context, which it could be like flat colors, it could be bluish colors. So the cube map does more than just add light to a scene. It also adds reflections. And so for a lot of the stuff, that's going to create just way more realism. And so if I grab something like this material, a mirror material, it's going to have this high contrast reflection. And if I put another object into the scene, you'll be able to see this mirror reflecting this cube into the mirror material.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is, it's really black, as like the whole scene is black. But what's happening on the top side is it's reflecting the cube map as if there's a whole environment. And for things like chrome and shiny materials, that's super important. Everything's really blown out. So if you're making a scene from scratch, one of the first things you'll also want to do is go to exposure within the post-processing tab. And right now it's set to auto, and I always set it to manual, and then set it to like 10. And that's still kind of dark, so we'll set it to 11. So now I think this is much more evenly and accurately lit, and you can start to actually see what's in this reflection map. And if you
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, if we go back to the environments tab and you see Skybox, we'll turn this guy on, and then I'm gonna select the second one. So this 360-degree environment is what's actually being reflected onto this mirror sphere right now. So if I turn that off, instead of this reflection coming from this skybox, it's actually coming from this skylight. So this is like really, really fundamentals of how to light a scene. So if I take this point light and I drop it in the scene, I'm gonna have to get it closer to the cube. There we go. So now we're casting some light into the scene. It's not very bright, so let's make it like 500. And so there's probably two important things to know about lights, like the point light and the other ones in general. That's the intensity and the attenuation radius. So these blue spheres or circles around this point light, that's how far the light is going to be cast. And right now it's 500 units, so let's go up to 2500. So now it's going to be casting a really, really long way. And I think one of the easiest way to see this is if we put a large plane into the scene. And I'm going to zero that out. I'll put this guy on the ground and this guy on the ground as well. Cool. So now we can see what this point light is really doing, because there's something for it to hit. And we've got shadows, we've got the cast shadows, but then we've also got the highlight lighting. The colored lighting is really fun to play with. So during Coachella, when we were doing some of the different scenes, we had DMX input controlling some of the colors of the lights. But every now and then I would pop open this dialog and I would just change the lights. So if the lighting director was not sending me any color information, then I would just manually go in, and if content in the scene was pink or blue, or if the IRL lights were a certain color, then I might just go in and manually sit there, and I would just kind of like do like this with the mouse and change the scene on the fly. So this is a kind of a manual way to just kind of have fun with VJ, and that's something I did quite a bit actually at Coachella.
Nice.
Any questions on this guy? The point light is one of the easiest ways to get lights in the scene.
No, this is good. Like, this is a good way to just show me how to get started. So yeah, this is great.
Awesome. So one note: a point light is just like a light bulb. It's going to cast light in all directions, and what it is doing under the hood is it's actually 4 spotlights that are like back to back. So if you drag and drop a spotlight into the scene, it's only going to point in a direction of this cone. And so think about the point light is 4 of these, this guy right here, the point light. It's basically 4 of these spotlights all back to back, pointed in all directions. And what's important about that is that that basically makes the point lights 4 times more expensive computationally than a spotlight. So it makes them really easy to throw into a scene and get even simple lighting into a scene. But if you throw too many of them into the environment, it'll eventually start to slow things down. So with this guy, I'm going to dial this guy up to 500 and then make it red just so we can see what effect it's having. Attenuation radius, let's set to 2500. And then the outer cone angle is how narrow of a beam it's casting. And so if you set to like 80 or 90, then it's almost perpendicular. So now it's just a super
Okay.
wide kind of shotgun. So that's really
Yeah.
probably not that useful. So if we go to 60 or 45, then we've got a light that's probably, a little bit more functional. Using the handles, you can of course move it around, move it up and down, and then also rotate it. And so then you can use this to light a scene. And these can also be animated. So any of these variables you can attach a node to, and then the node can be changing the color value or the brightness. And so that's also a fun way to affect a scene. And one of the things I like to do is take like the audio analysis and then have it move the light so that it's kind of bouncing with the beat, and that can be a really fun way to kind of like strobe a scene. And I'll show you some of the tunnel effects in a second. And the tunnels are great for moving the lights back and forth to create a strobe effect, because the light will create like a vignette or like an envelope around some of the different content. So it'll feel like a strobe effect. Cool.
Cool.
I think maybe one other thing I would share about the lights in the advanced tab, the volumetric scattering is great when you combine it with fog. And so with the environments tab, if I turn the fog override on, I'll have to turn the visibility back on. If this is like we're dumping a lot of light in the scene, so I'll probably have to turn that down. But this point light, if I make that like 10 and I turn off this point light, the volumetric scattering should be creating like a fog, a foggy sort of opaqueness to the light. So let's see if we can get this to work so I can show you an example. So volumetric scattering, we're going to set that to 100, and then go back and we'll set the fog strength to like 0.25. All
Oh, I
right.
see. Yeah.
Yep. And so this is the way to create more like moodiness. So if you've got like a dark or an alleyway and you want it to be moody, then instead of casting like pure light onto a scene, you can blow it out by adding the volumetric scattering. And now that we've kind of relit the scene a little bit, I'm going to go back up to 100. So if we set this to like nighttime, now we've got a really foggy scene, and that fog is going to be coming from the light itself. And
Okay.
and so this one, if we go to the spotlight, I think this by default is at 1. So this is like 0 fog, and then let's go up to like 10. So now you can see the kind of cone shape of the light. And so that's where you could put this onto like a street light at night and create like a foggy street environment. So that's a little bit more of an advanced feature. Also, like if you want to turn off the cast shadows, every now and then you may have lights in the scene that the whole scene is starting to hit your frame rate cap. You may want to just turn off shadows if they're not actually useful within the scene. In this case, it helps ground the environment, but you may or may not want shadows for every single light in the scene. Cool. So this is just some fun kind of basic stuff with lighting, but this is not quite getting at the effects. So I think we could switch gears and start talking about some of the effect systems that are built into Mixer, and maybe we can do it within this scene. And any questions on like the materials or lighting before we move on?
No, I think that's good.
Cool. So my go-to kind of default for particle systems is this swarm effect, and then it's just going to drop these spheres by default into the environment. And I'm going to turn our point light back on and then turn off the scattering. And hopefully you should be able to see a bunch of particles right now. And just to make them super clear, let's make them bigger. One second. We're looking for uniform particle size. I'm going to get lost in the details. Particle size. Cool. So hopefully those are coming through. I think the 2 or 3 most important variables that you're going to want to change for this particle system is going to be the curl noise strength and the curl noise frequency. And so the frequency, right now we've got this subtle wave. And so the frequency of the wave is like 1.5, and I don't know if that's mapped to time, but let's just think of that as like every wave up and down takes 1.5 seconds to complete. So if we go up to 3, then now it's happening, the vibrations are happening twice as much. And if we go up to 30, now they're really vibrating back and forth very quickly. Within, like, let's say within 1 second, they're fluctuating up and down 30 times. Whereas if we drop this to 1, then think about them moving up and down once every second.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're.
Yep.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
This
like the full scope of the like sine wave or something is
exactly.
Once.
Yeah, it's just like these sine waves, and it's just like the kind of stuff that you've been doing in Touch Designer. So
Yeah.
this stuff should be pretty familiar on that front. So these particle systems are 3D. The noise frequency is important, and then the strength is the amplitude. So if we go up to 30,000, not 300,000, then we're going to get a lot more movement. And I think this may get a little tricky, but I'm going to turn on some music. All right. All right, can you hear me, or is it a little too loud?
I can hear you. I don't hear the music, but
Gotcha. So I can hear the music extra loud, but I'm gonna go to the nodes and show you the audio analysis, and then I'm just not gonna talk because the music's gonna be loud in my ears. But then I'll show you how to attach that to the swarm particle system, and then how to dial up and down the values, because they get pretty large, and so it can be unintuitive because you might be typing in a bunch of numbers and like, why isn't this working? And it may be because you're setting 3,000 but it needs like 90,000. So sometimes it's less intuitive that way. Cool. All right, so I wish you could have heard the music because it's kind of a banger. But if I do line in, then it should be now moving to my voice. So I can walk you through some of the steps here, and we'll just do it with the microphone for the sake of simplicity. So right now, the audio analysis is attached to the microphone, and we've got a base of like amplitude of 30,000. And what I did was, if you have the forward arrow, then it adds this value to this value. And if you can see on the output, right now it's like coming in at like 100th up to like 0.1. And so that's practically nothing. So what we have to do is multiply this value times this value. And so right now, since it's still coming through at like less than 1, then we're actually dividing. And so that's why the particles aren't doing anything. But if you hit this modifier, then now we're doing 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 times 128 times 30,000. So that's actually a really, really big number. And so this is unfortunately a little counterintuitive. And so I think that can trip a lot of people up because they're like, it's not doing anything. And it's just because the numbers need to be really big. And
Yeah.
and all of this is being muted by the drag. So if you set the drag to 0, then those numbers don't need to be as big. But I like to have at least a little bit of drag to keep things from going out of just. You need it to slow down, and the drag will add an initial force and then cause them to slow down gradually. So it just helps with the easing in and out of the animations. I think
Okay.
with this one, the spawn count is definitely important if you are starting to get like bogged down. Like if you have a bunch of these particle systems, like for Coachella, we might have like a dozen particle systems in a scene. Then you may want to go into the spawn rate and set this down to a lower value. And this is also the kind of thing that you could attach like an audio analysis to, so that like when the bass hits, it spawns a bunch of particles. Otherwise, the system might be very quiet. The some of the other stuff that is good to play with is the lifetime. And if you set this lifetime to like 100, the particles will sit around for a very, very long time. And that means if you're spawning like 5,000 every second and you have them live for 100 seconds, you're going to end up with like 2 million particles before you know it. And that can,
Okay.
that can crash your machine. So those are a couple things to watch out for. The rotation is really fun if we've got something other than a sphere, because we're not going to see like what the spheres are doing. So if we go up and instead of doing a sphere and we select a cube, now you've got these cubes. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the weather system back on so that we can see what's happening. All right, so now we got this cube-based particle system, and by default, we've got this material that starts out blue and then fades to pink over time. So that's just something that's built into this particular shader, and you can change to a couple different shaders. And I think this system, or this shader is just a really good one to start with. But within the shader, the particle system can change a few things. If you change the color, it's not going to have an effect until we change the particle color weight. So right now it's only using that blue to pink animation. If we set that to 0, then it's going to be whatever color we pick, but it's going to be a solid color. So I usually do some kind of like combination like in between. So now it's going to keep that animation over time, but add a color value to it. And this is also the kind of thing that you could set like audio analysis to have the color change with the audio input. So that's some fun, just kind of like pre-baked effects. And I use the swarm for just about everything. So this is something that is the like workhorse for a lot of the stuff that I do. Once we have a different object, you can now go in and do some of the fun stuff like rotation and really just start to go crazy. And all these effects can be layered and turned on and off with like a MIDI device or sliders, or using audio analysis, or even just the simple waveforms. I was talking to one guy who had an EEG like brain scanner, and so he wanted that would send OCS data, and so he wanted to connect these particle systems to his like brain. So whatever you can think of, you can start to layer and work out what kind of timing you want for these types of effects or variables. And we're trying to name a lot of these things as consistently as possible from system to system. So once you master the swarm particle system, it'll make it a lot easier to learn the other ones, because some of the other ones are actually simpler than this one. So I would say this is one of the more advanced particle systems. Cool.
Would you suggest starting with this swarm then, or maybe should I look at another one? Like,
I
I mean,
would
I can certainly go back and follow what you did, but if there's another one to kind of lead up to, like, might be good to.
I would start here, and then just play with the strength and the frequency.
Oh, okay.
Just start with these
Yeah.
two variables, and then just start to have fun. And once you get those two dialed in, then you can tweak some things like the material or the some of the other things like you can go nuts with the part
Yeah.
the just the material and curl noise strength, like just those two things will give you hundreds of options. So I would start with those.
Okay.
I wouldn't let it scare you. It has a lot of parameters. It's a very versatile system, but
Uh,
I wouldn't be intimidated. All right, so I'm gonna hide this guy for now, and go back to the effects tab. Um, the spiral I think is actually much harder. So if you were looking for one to start with, I think the spiral one is very cool, but it is kind of tricky. And there's the spiral and the spiral advanced, which has a lot more like options. But with this one, it's basically spawning a cube and then wrapping that around in a circle. So if I take this like node 5 and attach to the degrees, then it's going to go from not many rotations to a lot of rotations. And this can get a little confusing because it can get lost in like what the rotations are doing and what they're doing within degrees. But this one can be a lot of fun, especially if you start to attach say different types of shapes and objects to it. So this one can be a lot of fun. And if you start with the basic one, this one is really satisfying to work with. The advanced one will let you do a lot of twisting and bending and rotation on the XYZ axes, so on 3 different, like 6 degrees of freedom. So this one can get more complicated, but this one can also be very, very cool. It's just that's the one I would not start with. Light speed.
okay.
The light speed is just this kind of like light tunnel effect system. So this one is very basic. There's not a lot to this one. It's just kind of there to like simulate some kind of like space environment. The star field is the same thing, except that the stars don't move. So this is just creating a little bit of ambience, just like an ambient space environment. So if you wanted your scene to take place in space, the star field can do a few things, but not too much. So those are some just super basic things to kind of get you started. When you dive deeper into these other systems, they can get a lot more complicated and a lot more fun, to be honest. The tunnels, I think these are what a lot of VJ kind of loops end up looking like. And I created this Space Station 1 as like an advanced example of what these types of systems can look like. It comes in, just know it comes in backwards. So we're looking at the backside, and so we're going to see some transparent things that should be transparent. So I'm going to just rotate the camera 360 degrees. So now we've got this effect system that's actually spawning these tunnel meshes or 3D objects. And there's some randomization built in, like the walls will have different things like this big tube, and so these things are just randomized. And this is an effect system that's intended to be just ready to go out of the box. And this is where we can take our point light or a point light and drop it into the scene. And this is one that we could have it strobe or move along the x-axis, so that it's moving forward and backwards within this kind of tunnel environment. So I think this is where you can have a lot of fun with using the lighting to create depth and a strobe effect within the scene. I'm going to make this a lot brighter and then change the colors. And so this is orange now, and I'm going to send it backwards. So this is where if you have this light moving forward and backwards, you're going to get this movement along and like deeper within the scene or closer to the scene. So this is the stuff that kind of tickles my fancy when that's attached to like an audio input. You
Yeah,
see,
is there a way to like trace like just the edge of the outlines in something like this
kind of.
to where like
Oh, go ahead.
or yeah, I was just gonna say to like where we could just like use like the lines of the three-dimensional shapes and to like apply a color or something.
Yeah, there's a
I'm
couple.
thinking of things of try I would try
Yeah,
probably.
I'm not sure if this one. Let's see. Like some of these, you can change the shader on. I'm not sure if we can change all of them. So let's see what happens. I don't think we can individually change the materials. But if you go to the post processing tab and post processing material, this is something that we're working on. There's a few options. So we'll set the weight to 1, which is 100%. And there's a couple in here that are like cell shading. So this is like adding an outline, like a toon shader. But I
Okay.
don't think this is quite what you were going for. Um, but there are ways
But
to go
yeah,
ahead.
it looks like there are in that post-processing menu right there, there are a lot of cool effects to like filter type effects to add
Yep. Yep.
to like once you get something going. So
Yep.
yeah, see like
So this one
already
is
getting something.
yep. Yep.
Okay.
You can't see my camera, but I'm shaking my head. Yes. So this one is like a negative color.
Mm,
Let's up the exposure. So yeah. So this one is kind of making everything blue. This one's making everything orangish. Then this one's a kaleidoscope effect. And
okay. Yeah.
so these are ways to affect the render, like after the render. So it's applying an effect to the whole screen as opposed to an individual object. So this is kind of like a Resolume type effect.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah, and this is something I want to work on more because I want to add like glitch effects, and this is the kind of place where you could, in the future, you'll be able to go to the material editor and create a glitch effect, and then apply that to the scene um, to create a lot of effects that you would normally do in Touch Designer. So if you think about all the ways to
Yeah.
mess with the RGB in Touch Designer, that's the kind of thing that you would do within a post-processing of material within Unreal Engine or within Mixer. This is
Okay.
this is something we haven't dove into very deep because we've been focused on the 3D and the AI pipeline, but this is some
Mhm.
very very fertile ground for exploration. And
Awesome.
this is the kind of thing that within Mixer Pro, when it's released, will be more open source to be able to create these, your own kind of
Oh yeah.
filter effects. That would
That's
require like shader development, but that is the kind of thing that should be available soon.
very cool.
Yep. All right. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. This is a lot better. Or this is kind of like I think just seeing this again, I think I can get get started basically and then start poking around a little easier. So
definitely, there's a couple more things I could run you through. Like we got to
yeah, yeah.
start a little late, so if you've got time, I'd be happy to go
I mean,
another.
I've got as much time as you're willing to give me. So
Yeah. Well, we've been doing the screen recording for about 43 minutes, so I feel like we haven't given you your full
oh,
hour yet. So I say let's keep going. All
okay.
right. So this tunnel effect system. So if we zoom out, you can kind of see what's going on.
Okay.
It's spawning these cube corridors, and then they're just kind of like playing out until they die, and then they pop out. So that's what's happening under the hood. But one of the there's some videos like on our website and the YouTube channel that walk through this. So if we turn on the camera, then we start to animate the camera with the audio analysis as well. So I'm gonna just move the camera into position, and like I was saying, this effect system is backwards, so we're gonna rotate the camera 180 degrees. And if we use the node system, then we can start to animate the camera as well. So like for rotation and location. So for rotation on the y-axis, I just dropped in node 1, which is going between like 5 and -5. And now I've got this kind of trippy up and down wobble. And this stuff was super fun when I was making some of the YouTube content. And there's a nice video of this on our website. So if we go back to the home page. So if you can see this like jitter in this video, that's actually the camera being bounced vertically on the z-axis by the audio analysis. So you've got this like up and down wobble from one of the nodes, but then every time the bass hits, it's like giving this like thud to the camera for like extra emphasis.
Yeah.
Yep. So the way I pulled that off was by attaching a couple of the different just pre-baked waveforms that are just sine waves. And so let's throw the same node 1 onto X, which is giving it this kind of like side to side rotation, like a barrel roll, kind of like side to side. And then on the Z axis, I'll attach the audio analysis, which is still the microphone. Check, test. Let's see. Too high. Test. Yeah, so I think you can see that bouncing, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I created that effect, and it was super satisfying to see, for me at least, to see it like bounce every time a bass, like a beat would drop. So that this effect system has some randomization in it, but in the end, it is very repetitive. So I think thinking about what you put in it to populate the scene, like if we bring this the swarm system into view and make it much smaller, then we can put this two systems together. Let me see if I zero these two out. I want to pop out of the camera view for a second and see if we can position the swarm to be in the middle of the tunnel. All right, so let's put that guy there, and then we'll drop back in, and all right. So now these cubes are way too big. So I think one of the things I did was use one of the prop kits. So if we go to the 3D objects and then space station, we've got a lot of the different props that go with these space station kind of theme. So if I grab one of these like corridor looking objects and then drag and drop it onto the cube, now you've got all these containers, and they're way too big. So let's under swarm, let's find size again. Instead of 10, we'll do 2. It's probably way too small, so we'll make it 4. And then there's way too many of them, so let's do like 50. Test. All right, there you go. So this is how I was creating that YouTube video. And within the swarm, you can give them a direction so that they move along in one axis in particular. And so that's how I was making it look like they were moving away from the camera. Maybe we'll make them like 8. So some of the newer particle systems that are going to be in MXR Pro are going to have collision, so that they would actually be able to bounce off the walls. And that also creates a really fun like suspension of disbelief. Cool. All right, so this is kind of layering a couple things together. We'll have the swarm particle system now emitting these props, and then if we turn the camera back on and reposition it, then now we've got the camera that should be wobbling and floating, and then also with this container kind of prop, it's going to start to populate the scene. And I think the whole goal of Mixer is to try to make the type of content that you would see in a VJ loop, make it real time, so that you could be changing any of these variables on the fly, like the color, or you can drag and drop props. This can get a little tricky, like sometimes you can create some stuttering. But one of the things we did at Coachella is we would have a system like Swarm, and I would queue it up so that I would be dragging and dropping effects so that we'd be changing the 3D object on the fly. So this is where you could queue up an effect system and then be dragging and dropping and doing this sort of VJing stuff, but live. You could set all this stuff up in advance, or you could make it so that every now and then you want some variation. Then you're dragging and dropping content um, basically on the fly. Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, so I think maybe I'll run you through some of the other um, effect systems just quickly. All right, so I think, and I think the swarm effect system is just so versatile. So now we've got these random 3D objects. So you don't think of the swarm effect system as just spheres or particles. It's a full-fledged like 3D system. So you can just have lots and lots of fun with this. Or fun, English. All right, so if we go back to the effects tab, we're in tunnels. There's a lot of different variations on the tunnel. I'm gonna turn the sky back on so we can see what's happening. All right, so I lost the effect system. Let's try that again. All right, so this system is a lot more geometric, and it's basically a cube that's spiraling. And if you fly to the end of it and then look backwards, you can have it moving towards you, or you can have it moving away from you, kind of based on which direction the camera's facing. But you can also do that by setting the speed. Instead of being negative, you can have it be positive, and then that reverses the flow. This one can be a little bit complicated, but a lot of stuff functions the same way that the swarm system functions. It just happens to be that this one is emitting more in this tube corridor kind of effect. And if I throw more light into the scene, we can see what's going on. Cool. So with this one, I think it's all about repetition and trying to get the shape and the behavior of the tunnel to change over time. So like this cube max size, we can change this along the X, Y, and Z. So we can set one axis to be a different size, or we can have this change over time using the node system. So I'm going to attach. So now this cube should grow and kind of shrink based on that wave, or based on the node 2 that we just attached to it. And this can be a lot of fun with the rotation as well. So I'm going to set it to rotate on the x-axis. And so now it's going with that sine wave up and down, but along the length of this like kind of corridor it's creating. Cool. Any questions on this one? This one you can just have lots of fun, just kind of going crazy on all the different options. And
Yeah, looks great.
this
I
one,
think, yeah.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think I follow you pretty well. How you're tweaking this one?
Yep. This one also, like that whole like repetition. If you start to combine this with different objects as well, can get to be a lot of fun. So creating a lot of variation based on what you're throwing into the effect system.
Mm. Cool.
Yeah, you can just go nuts with this stuff. Get the rotation rates so you can speed this up and slow it down. And so this is the kind of thing you just like the diameter, this emitter radius. That's another really fun one because it'll start to open up and close the effect system. And so then as these like moments or like movements, you'll be able to like kind of constrain the audience's field of view and then open it back up, so you can have these like moments where you reveal. It's getting too small, and so the objects are clipping with the camera, but you can fix that by just making it have a bigger base size. So when it goes -500, hopefully they're not spawning right in the middle of the screen. But yeah, so this should create these like kind of opening and closing of that kind of field of view, and that can be a lot of fun for the audience. And then yeah, definitely try to have fun and play with the rotation and creating variation within that, and then using the audio analysis to just go nuts. This system is super fun, and
Yeah.
it really is a variation on the swarm particle system. It's just that it's been set up so that it is moving along an axis. So kind of think of it in a very similar way to the swarm. It's just the swarm is moving and moving in a way that creates these repeating patterns. Like if you wanted to, you could go in here and affect the curl noise, but that gets this really noisy. So it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not as effective when you're looking at the particle system from the outside. Cool. So there's a bunch of different tunnel effect systems that are all subtly different, but similar in the concept and how they work. But the space station one is showing, like a very premeditated space, and then the rest of them are much more abstract tunnel effects. I'm gonna speed run through some of the other ones. We've got these water effects, and these can be a lot of fun to create kind of like ripple distortion. Some of these are a little bit complicated, and so they come with a bit of a disclaimer. They're not always going to work the way you might expect them to. This one is a lot of fun because you can take different 3D objects that have collision enabled. And so if I take this little pyramid and I look at the bottom of the details panel, you can turn on fluid collision, and these should now interact with the water and create like a splashing effect.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yep, I'm gonna make
That's great.
I'm gonna make it bigger, and it's gonna break the system. But so this is something I've used before to have like an object attached to audio analysis, and then use it to dynamically splash the water, and you can just go nuts with this stuff. So there's a couple different types of water to play with, and then with an experimental, there's even more options of different types of water. Like this is like a water plane, and this one, I think I just deleted the object I was using to splash around with, but this one will also interact with objects to create a splashing. It's just going to do it on a 2D plane. So let's grab this cube and we'll try it with that one. All right, so some of these are in experimental because they're not always working the way you would expect them to. But there you go. Like,
Oh, nice. Yeah,
yeah, like
that's
this.
cool.
Yeah, this one I need to continue to work on. Like I said, it's in the experimental. It doesn't rotate. It only works flat, like perpendicular to the camera. So that's something I need to fix. Some of these are work in progress. So that's the water, but there are also some really fun volumetric effects. And so these are going to be things like smoke and fire. And these can get very computationally heavy. But there's one of these in particular, I think it's like, let me see here. It's this 3D gas spiral. This one is a lot of fun to play with. And like if you take a node and attach it to the radius, and then increase the density, then you could really start to create these like crazy effects.
Yeah.
So fluid density, let's go up to like 25. There we go. Can you see the frame rate just get squashed?
Oh
So
yeah.
keep in mind these are some pretty complicated effect system. These are running on I'm on a 4090 right now. We've got a bunch of other effects in the scene, but just know that you can only go so far. All right, so that's my disclaimer. The
Yeah.
So have fun with this stuff. These also have collisions, so just like the other water systems, you can throw in 3D objects and have the objects affect the gas and fire. So I like the Taurus because it's got the little hole in the middle to create more turbulence. So I'm gonna make this guy bigger, turn on the fluid collisions. So now we should be able to like really go nuts. And one of the things I want to do with this is I've seen some very cool volumetric effects in Touch Designer. This is using a similar effect under the hood with just the type of fluid simulation math, and I want to create more glitch type effects using this stuff. Cool. So this is just kind of giving you a glimpse of some of the more advanced effect systems. And some of these are more experimental, and so take it with a grain of salt. But this particular fluid simulation responds really well to 3D objects and to colored lighting.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That looks so good.
And this is just a rough demo. So like I'm excited to see what guys like you get in there and start creating. All right, so I think that's kind of an overview. Starting like if I back up, we've got within here the rotation tool is great for creating really fast animations where you're rotating and animating 3D objects. The material editor is great for then applying animated surfaces to those 3D objects, and there's just so many to choose from, but like the holographic ones. If I drag and drop this onto here, now I've got this kind of glitchy holographic shape. If you put that in the material editor, this distortion of the surface, all that stuff can be animated, the jitter scale. So you can really have fun, changing the color as well as the behavior of the 3D objects. And then we moved into some of the more basic FX systems like the swarm and light speed and spiral. But then the tunnels I think are great to kind of get your feet wet. And then one thing I didn't talk about were these shape effect systems. So these are some pre-made generic, no, I shouldn't say generic, there's pre-made like platonic solids, like toruses, spheres, boxes, that kind of thing. But these are a little bit more complex where you can drag and drop them, and there's lots to choose from with different color variation and shape variations. But each one of these is being animated using a shader. And so if you go into the materials folder and then shader, if we go to cubes for this guy here, let's see, box effect system, then we can also drag and drop these into the material editor and create custom versions. By the way, we fixed this bug in the latest version. Right now it's loading, and we made it so it doesn't freeze whenever you try to load a big file. So stay tuned. We got some bug fixes coming.
Okay.
Yeah, say that it may take 3 or 4 minutes for us to load. So this,
Yeah. I mean, no.
yeah, this might be a good place to pause.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. This is plenty for me to work on.